Hey y'all, afternoon. This is my first video for Mental House Sports, and I want to start it um, talking about. First of all, let me say good morning and good afternoon to you, whatever side of the diaspora that you're on. Thank you for being there. This is our sports channel, right? And with this, we're going to talk a little bit about the craziness that goes on in the sports world. That actually I want to separate it because there's so many videos on the other channel. But this first one is I want to give reference to, and what's going on is the Lorenzen Wright arrest in that case. For those of y'all who know, Lorenzen Wright, he played about 13 years in the NBA. You know, he made over $50 million easy. And by 2008, I believe he was drafted in like 97 or 96, somewhere up in there. Let's see. So that would have been 2006. Yeah, 11, 8. Exactly. He played. So yeah, he maybe was in the 96 draft, 90, somewhere up in there. And he played 13 years. By 2008, Lorenzen supposedly, well, factually was in debt. And so there were some circumstances going on which makes this death so crazy. And what has happened over the course of this young man's life just makes it so freaking horrific. For those of y'all who know, again, this guy was over 7 feet tall, big man. He was a center. And by the time they found him, his body, that means, I should say, this guy was 57 pounds. Now, he's from Memphis hometown hero. And I know because my ex was from Memphis. And of course, I'm kind of like, I was obsessed with everything Memphis. And Lorenzen is one of their, beloved sons. He did a lot of charity work in his hometown, and I really couldn't hear anybody say a bad word towards this young man. But, of course, we all know, we all got two sides to us, and we have the side we want you to see, which is the mask, and then we have the side that we prefer that you don't. But anyway, I don't want to make this anyway about making Lorenzen his own, blaming him for his situation. But something happened in this young man's life where he definitely got involved with the wrong players. There was two cars that were sold, Mercedes-Benz and an Escalade, to these drug dealers. One just Cole or whatever, and he was like a big time dealer that had connections to the Mexican cartel. Now, what's interesting and crazy about this is this guy was already either pled guilty to trafficking drugs. When they asked Lorenzen why his vehicles were involved and were on this man's property, Lorenzen said that he sold the man the cars, and he, of course, disassociated himself with the guy's activity and said he had no knowledge of it. So a lot of people think that's why he was, murdered by these people, because, hey, the car is yours, but the drugs aren't. I don't know. Maybe they wanted somebody to go down. Maybe these are the people that Lorenzen owed the money to. I don't know. Maybe he got the cars back. Whatever happened, it was when this point where these shady characters got involved in this man's life. Now, what disturbs me, not even getting back to whether the wife did it or not. This is what disturbs me more about this case, and I'm going to take it all the way back to before he was even um, a superstar basketball player. I have a very hard time dealing with the fact that this wife is 12 years older than him. And now y'all can call me old-fashioned if you want to, because I really am. And so I'm cut from a different cloth, and I'm from a different era. So just look at it like you're talking to an older auntie, okay? Because what's going on in this situation, something in this milk ain't clean and by a long shot. And it's still hanging up to me, because I want to know, of all the young men that I've raised, of all the... I cannot believe that there was not a problem when this... Because Lorenzen is a very young man. He's got 6 children by a woman who is at least 12 years older than him. But think about that for a minute. He played until he was like, what, 34? Somewhere up in there. 35. He has 6 children. And what it leads me to believe when I look at it is he was a target way before the actual murder. Because I would have had a problem with this lady coming into my son's life, and my son is at least in high school, and she's 30 years old. Because that's the way the time adds up. The time adds up, whereas this lady and Lorenzen got together when he was barely out of high school, or if he was still in high school. So it's like, isn't that a red flag? You got the high school star, you got this old ass lady, damn near old, already seeing the dollar signs, and decide to jump on this bandwagon. And who was not around him enough to know that was happening to that young man, and could have prevented that right off the bat? I'm sorry to say, I know a lot of times young people get into the person even more when you try to interject. But for a woman to be 12 years older than my son, and he's just barely out of high school, that don't fly with me. And I would have a serious problem with that. So that right there stood out to me, and I'm very, very disappointed in the parents. And I wish I could know what they were thinking, or I would like to know, we're not blaming them in any shape, form, or fashion, but just want to know where their heads was at when this old ass lady came in to pretty much attack and get hooked up and tied up with their son. Because so that was the beginning of the end right there to me. And then she started having all these babies real fast to trap him. Probably by the time he woke up to all of this, he wanted to get away from her. And I understand why he was... I'm making no excuses for this young man, but young people do stupid stuff. Now, he might have thought he was the man when he first got involved with her. Oh, yeah, I could pull this old woman, and look at me, look at me. Probably was bragging to his homeboys how he pulled this older woman. But at the end of the day, she pulled him. And she probably was... Who's zooming who? A fish off the hook tonight, baby. That's a fish jumped on the hook. Okay, because I'm very disturbed by that. But let me just continue. This R.I.P. Wright was arrested along with a deacon from the church, because she's now a minister and she's since remarried. And she was arrested, and they said one of the deacons from her church, or the church that they belong to or whatnot. Billy Turner is his name. They were arrested in connection and charged basically with first-degree murder. I mean, this man laid in the field for off of a remote road somewhere in southeast Memphis. Being 7 feet, by the time they found his body, he was weighing less than 57 pounds. What a disturbing. Oh, I feel so bad for his mom and father and family members. I'm sad for you. I'm glad, however, that there's some kind of closure now, and you beginning to get the closure that you need, because I believe it was more than these two individuals that were responsible for this. So, and from what I'm hearing, the police department in Memphis is giving these other people a chance to turn themselves in, because they know who they are and they're gonna find them. And I think that they've just even alluded to that. But in the meantime, these are people they have so far in connection with the murder. His ex-wife, who was 46, and his deacon, Billy Turner. Now, I know her and Lorenzen was divorced, and they had been divorced by the time they found him dead, but to think that you could let somebody kill somebody, and I don't know if any of you guys have watched the Sports Illustrated piece, Who Killed Lorenzen, but it'll be a very good piece to watch, because it's just so weird. Her and another man burning something in the pit the day after the police came, or the day after he died. And a lot of suspicious behaviors. Well, I just want to, say to the mother that I'm glad you're beginning to get some semblance of closure to this situation. This is a bad. Left those kids are going to be left parentless. They're already dealing with the fact that their dad was murdered, and to deal with the fact that their mom had something to do with it. That's just devastating, and it's trauma. There's some more trauma-based individuals that we're sitting out in this community and in this society, and we don't know how that trauma is going to manifest itself in their behaviors. Either they're going to be real violent when they process all the filtered stuff. They're going to be real violent towards somebody, or they're going to allow somebody to be violent towards them. And the cycle continues. And that's why it's very important that we get a hold to our mental state. Because only a person that is full of unbalance would carry out something like that. The cruelty of letting somebody that you slept with and gave 6 babies to, the cutoff point, give somebody all the ammunition they need to murder and kill that person, and then leave them in the field. It's just all so disgusting. What's even more disgusting, I want to make sure that person, that 911 operator that answered that phone and heard those gunshots, and that whole little department that didn't allow that phone call to be processed correctly, every single one of them should be fired, in my opinion. Because that's somebody's life that was hanging on the end. If nothing else, you could have recovered him before all the animals. And y'all know how hot it is down south, and for it to have rain and